Today we're talking about major 7 chords. Now, hey, wait a minute. Before you just tune out and you go, I know everything there is to know about major chords. Well, maybe not. This is a big deal. In this episode, there is some guaranteed fretboard fluidity on the other side of this, because we're going to take a really cool concept with major 7 and we're going to use that to be able to get up and down on this fretboard, not only fluidly, but confidently, right? That's a big deal. We all want that, right? Well, wait a minute. You might be asking yourself, what is a major 7 chord? Super easy. A major 7 chord is a chord that has these 4 notes. It has the 1, the 3, the 5, and the 7. So in the case of C major 7, you have C, E, G, and B. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about, major 7 chords exist in a couple of places naturally. What I mean by naturally is in a key, you have 2 major 7 chords, the 1 and the 4. And when we start talking about the 4 chord, that's going to open up this whole Lydian idea. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about some really cool pentatonic, sort of like a pentatonic decoder ring that I'm going to give you, where you can blend 3 pentatonic scales from now on. And you'll be able to use those and get a lot of nice spice in your playing. So, first things first. A while back we did a lesson on tension and release, and in that lesson we had a moment where I said, in every key, there are tension chords and release chords. The release chords are going to be the 1, the 3, and the 6, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So the 1, the 3, and the 6. Let's just pick the key of C, because why not? Key of C, right? So in the key of C, you've got C major 7 is the 1. The 3 is going to be E minor 7 if you like. And then A minor is going to be the 6. Or A minor 9, or any extension thereof, right? So to that end, any extension as long as it's in the key of C as far as the notes go. Point of clarity. To that end, when you take the major chord and the 3, so the 1 and the 3, and you combine those together, you get some really, really hip sounds. Now, I know you're sitting there and you go, wait a minute, I thought it was 1 and 6, relative major, relative minor. That is a thing, and that is true. If I play, A minor pentatonic, that's C major, right? Definitely. But also, if I play an E minor over a C, so like take this E minor right here. If I put a C in the bass of that, it becomes C major 7. The same way as if I play an A minor chord, or how about this? And I put a C in the bass of that, it becomes a C6. Now, I tell you, 6 chords, that's a whole other Chords and Coffee, and we will do that. But today, this is all about major 7. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to give you several C major 7 chords in a row. And then I'm going to show you a really cool exercise blending that with an E minor. And then we'll talk about the Lydian thing, and then we'll talk about the pentatonic thing. So let's start off with making sure we got all our C major 7s. Get your guitar tuned out, get it tuned out, get it tuned up or tuned out, either which way you like. This is Chords and Coffee. We'll accept both variations on a tuning theme. Let me pour a little more. I might need a cup of coffee here. There we go. Get your guitar tuned up. Let's rock and roll. All right, so this first C major 7, if you don't know this one, you got to know it. It's super simple. 2 fingers. You're going to be ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. You're going to be middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D. Everything else open. Don't play the low E. Just play the A down. Beautiful. The next C major 7. If you don't know this one, you ought to know it. Index finger laying across the 3rd fret all the way across. You're going to put your ring finger on the 5th fret of the D, middle finger on the 4th fret of the G, pinky on the 5th fret of the B. There you go. Next one. Now this one, I like this one a lot. This one, we got a couple different approaches for this. Let's do this one first. This is going to be one of those thumb wraparound Jimi Hendrix style deals. Before we get to there though, index finger on the 7th fret of the high E, middle finger on the 8th fret of the B. Ring finger is going to be on the 9th fret of the D, or G, excuse me, 9th fret of the G, and then pinky is going to be on the 10th fret of the D. Now, if you want to, you can take the knuckle of your thumb, this little part right here, right? There's my thumb camera right there. And I'm going to lay this right on the binding of this Heritage H150 here. And that's how I'm going to get that. If that feels just awful to you, don't do it. There you go. You can just do that. Or you can do this one right here. Index finger is going to be on the 8th fret of the low E. You're going to skip the A. You're going to have your ring finger on the D string of the 9th fret. Pinky's going to be on the G string of the 9th fret. And then middle finger is going to be on the 8th fret of the B. And then now this guy right here. Let's do, you can do pinky or ring finger. Maybe let's do ring finger here. Let's go ring finger on the 12th fret of the E, the B, and the G. Just lay her straight across. And then your index finger is going to be on the D string of the 10th fret. All right, there's a bunch of C major 7 chords. How about one more? Why not? Same deal as this. Let's go index finger right where that ring finger was on the 12th fret of the E, the B, and the G. Ring finger is going to be on the 14th fret of the D. And then pinky is going to be on the 15th fret of the A. That's really more of an electric guitar voicing because it gets way up in there. And I'm going to give you I'm going to give you 2 bonus chords here too, since we're talking about these major 7 ideas. And we'll come back to this. This is C major 9. This has the B and the D in it. This is going to be, let's do ring finger, or excuse me, middle finger on the A string of the 3rd fret. Index finger is going to be on the D string of the 2nd fret. Pinky is going to be on the 4th fret of the G. And then ring finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. And then here's one more. And actually, if you remember, we did a lesson on noodling. This shape came up a couple times here, or this idea, and we'll circle back to this here in just a second. But index finger on the 3rd fret of the A, middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B, and then ring finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G, and then pinky on the 5th fret of the D. So that already, those are some really, really pretty chords, and that already kind of sounds like something to my ear anyway. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, it's starting to lay out enough harmonic foundation to where it's starting to be a song that kind of writes itself if you just kind of play around with those. But if you want to take that to the next level, to another level, let me get some coffee in my system here before I get too far down this major 7 deal. Here we go. If you want to take this to another level, we need to blend this with the E minor. Now, just a second ago, I said that C major 7 is the same thing as an E minor over C. What do I mean by that? Well, if you take an E minor, it's spelled E, G, B. Now, if I put a C in the base of that, whatever is the lowest note, whatever the foundational note is of a chord, that ends up naming it, right? And the more notes you add to a chord, the more opportunities they are to name it. In other words, you know, there's more than a few different ways to look at it, because it wouldn't be wrong to see on a chart E minor / C. It's the same thing as C major 7. It just depends on the context of everything else that's going around it, whether or not that's the best idea in terms of naming that chord, right? But generally speaking, those notes, E, G, and B with the C, that makes a C major 7. Now C major 9 is just an E minor 7, E, G, B, D with a C in the bass, okay? So why am I saying this? Well, because we can start to link together E minor chords and C major 7 chords. And when you play them one note at a time and use that as a springboard for creativity, for improvisation, or even for just melody writing, you get some really cool stuff. But first of all, let's kind of actually look at this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an E minor chord that's sort of adjacent to all these C major 7s. So next to this guy, just go to a regular E minor. 2 fingers, you know, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A, ring finger on the 2nd fret of the D. E minor. Take a quick drink of coffee. Oh yes, yes. Now this C major 7 here. Here's what's really cool. You may not think of this as an E minor, but these 3 in the middle, that's an E minor chord. It's an E minor chord. You've got on the 5th fret of the D, that's a G note. on the G string of the 4th fret, that's a B note. And then there's an E note on the 5th fret of the B string. So look. Right? C major 7, E minor, C major 7, E minor. And then right here, I think it was also in that tension and release lesson, I had a moment where we talked about this particular voicing here. And we've talked about this before on Chords and Coffee. This voicing here, but here it comes again. We're going to do the middle finger is on the 7th fret of the A. Index finger is on the 5th fret of the D. Ring finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the G. And then pinky, that's going to be on the 8th fret of the B. This guy right here blends so well with this. Then obviously this E minor right here. This E minor 7, just index finger laid across the 7th fret, and you basically build a little A minor underneath there where you've got your ring finger on the 9th fret of the D, pinky on the 9th fret of the G, and then middle finger on the 8th fret of the B. Then just take this whole sheboing off here, and then take your index finger and put that on the 8th fret of the low E. There's another C major 7. All right, so then we get up here to this one right here. A while ago we did a C major 7 just like this, where you've got an E minor. You can just look at it right there on the 12th fret with the pinky, right? And then I've just got my index finger here on the 10th fret of the D, holding down that C. Well, if I move this back one to the 7th fret, that makes it an E minor. And then if I want to make it a C major 7, I can actually just put my index finger on the 8th fret of the low E. That's a little stretchy, but it's a nice grip. Now, what am I doing with all that? Well, whenever you see chords on the neck, you should try to connect them in single note individual lines. And your exploration of that, your experimentation, your signature sound, your voice is going to come out of you figuring out stuff that you like. So just as a case in point, if I come up here to this grip right here, and I like the way this lays out right here. So imagine this part of this E minor 7 grip, and I'm going to start with my pinky on the 7th fret of the A string, and I might slide into that note, and then I'm going to put my middle finger on the 5th fret of the D, and then my index on the 4th fret of the G. Just make a practice of just trying to play a simple melody line, even something down here. So you might even just play like an E minor pentatonic line and just go back and forth between those two chords, just to invent your own little phrases. But also take these chords and just try to play them one note at a time. I'm just trying to play like a little melody out of this shape or out of this shape, and then link it back to this shape. Right? There's no right or wrong here. There's just like what sounds good to your ear. So all I'm doing is I'm linking C major 7 ideas and E minor or E minor 7 ideas together up and down the neck. And it's going to work, and it's going to work every time. And if you're in E minor, you can do the C major 7 ideas, but there's going to be some tension there because it's going to lend itself to this Phrygian idea, which is a whole other Chords and Coffee. The main thing is think about all of the major keys that you're going to play in, which is a lot. Especially if you're playing like, pop music, or by pop music, anything that's not classical or jazz, so rock and roll, country, Sunday morning kind of stuff. there's going to be a lot of major tonality music that you play. And so this gives you a lot of different little springboards for your own phrasing, for your own licks and tricks and that sort of thing. So another thing we were going to talk about is this Lydian idea. So what is Lydian? What are modes generally? Modes are kind of an algebraic way to approach a specific major scale over a chord. What do I mean? So C Lydian is a way to say C is the fourth of what? What is C the fourth of? That's right, it's G. So C is the fourth of G. So if you play a G major scale with C in the bass, and here I've got my guitar tuned where I've got this low E tuned down to a C, just for this example, not the whole Chords and Coffee. Don't get nervous. All right, so if I play a G major scale, and I'm just gonna play G major straight up, so. So if I play this in thirds, now put C in the bass, listen what happens. Do you hear how that's this ethereal kind of like, man, Yoda is picking up the X-Wing out of a swamp by himself, right? It's a beautiful sound that you might go, oh, Nate, I don't know when in the world I'm ever going to use that. You'd be surprised, friend. It comes up a lot. In fact, one of my favorite examples, I went to go see Tedeschi Trucks Band. Derek Trucks, one of the greatest guitar players. Honestly, I'm going to say it out loud. Here it comes. Ready? I think he's one of the greatest guitar players maybe he's ever lived. He's an incredible guitar player. I mean, he puts spirit in the room. And I'm watching him play, and they're getting set up for Midnight in Harlem. I know it's coming because I've seen enough videos of the Tedeschi Trucks Band doing Midnight in Harlem. So I know this little swell of activity that's happening. Oh, here it comes. But he's doing Lydian while that's happening, right? It's in E, so he's doing D sharp or E flat, minor pentatonic. But he's doing a whole lot more than that. But that is essentially, when it's boiled down to its pure coffee grounds, that's what he's doing. So let's talk about Lydian some more. In G, if we look at the tension and release chords, the release chords are the 1, the 3, and the 6, just the same as there was in the key of C. 1, 3, and 6, right? So in the key of G, you've got 1, 3, and 6, and 1 is G, 3 is B minor, and 6 is E minor. Well, we just did a bunch of E minor C stuff. Now what happens if we do B minor over C? Well, and also, how about this? What is another way to express that B minor over C sound that's real common? Well, it's this D over C kind of thing. Right? And what's cool about this sound is that when you hear it, really this is the sound that you're hearing. Right? It's that raised fourth. So if I'm in a C major 7, it's an F sharp instead of an F natural. Why is that cool? Well, because if you get to the end of a tune, and instead of making it, which is cool, instead of just doing major 7, you could do this Lydian idea. Right? Well, you could do a B minor pentatonic over a C, and listen to how this sounds. Sounds really cool. It sounds really cool. In fact, there's some really cool specific chords with the key of C. I love playing this chord. Let me give that to you. So this, I had to write this down because I had to think about how do we name this. I'm going to call this a C add 9 sharp 4. What in the world? It's a C add 9 because it's got a D that's an octave above, and it's a sharp 4 because we've got this F sharp, which is rubbing against that G. But then when you play it in context, listen how pretty it sounds. That's really pretty. So, index finger on the 3rd fret of the A, middle finger on the 4th fret of the D, and then open G, and then middle finger is going to be on the B string. Did I say middle finger on the 4th fret? I meant ring fingers on the 4th fret of the D. So index finger and ring finger right next to each other. Ring finger on the 4th fret of the D. Middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. And then an open E. No low E. But this is a C add 9 sharp 4, or was that what I wrote down? Yeah, C add 9 sharp 4. That's the way I'm going to call it. You could also think of it as a D sus 4 over C. I wouldn't be mad at that. Here's another one. Another grip like that, where you've got your middle finger is going to be on the C note again on the 3rd fret. And then you're going to have the open D, the open G, and then your ring finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B, and then your index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the high E. Another really pretty chord, an ethereal chord. And in fact, if all you get out of this particular Chords and Coffee is like, man, I really like the sound of that, and that opens up your ear to accept that as a resolution sound, you're welcome. Because that Lydian thing, that is a cool way to end a song, or to even just have that, you know, be a part of a song. Listen to the resolution between this and going into G. Right? That's because you've got this 4 and the 5 on top of each other. Let me give you this shape here too. This is index finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the A. And gotta use pinky for this. If you can use your ring finger, send me a video of that. But pinky's going to be on the 7th fret of the D, the G, and the B. If that's too stretchy, make sure your thumb is in the right spot. Your thumb should be kind of on the upper 3rd, almost getting close to the edge there. Now, if that's too hard to play, totally get it. There's a way easier way. I'm just showing you this because it's stretchy and it's kind of cool. But the way easier way is to do it like this. And this is going to be index finger on the 7th fret of the D, the G, and the B. And then just use your middle finger on the 8th fret of the low E. So there's a couple Lydian chord ideas along with this. Now, if you wanted to play scales over that, like I just said, B minor pentatonic, but now, this is the big pentatonic decoder ring thing. From now on, if you're playing a major 7 chord, you can play the pentatonic of the 3, the 6, and the 7th minor pentatonic. So what am I talking about right now? Numbers, letters, what? Here's what I'm talking about. Just a second ago, when we were talking about the Lydian thing, C major 7 belongs to the key of C, but also belongs to the key of G. It's the 4th in the key of G. In the key of G, the release chords are the 1, the 3, and the 6, just like every other key, but in the key of G, they're G, E minor, and B minor. Okay? Remember that. Because in the key of C, the release chords are the C, the E minor, and the A minor. So now, if I am playing C major 7, that was all A minor pentatonic. Here comes E minor. Here comes B minor. So you've got these 3 different melodic concepts to give you some different little phrases, and you can kind of almost do the same thing in each one. It's going to sound completely different because the E minor is going to, E minor pentatonic is going to have the E, the G, the A, the B, and a D. Well, how does that relate to C? Stay with me, this is good stuff. The E is going to be the 3rd, the G is going to be the 5th, the A is going to be the 6th, the B is the major 7, and the D is the 2nd and the 9th, right? In the A minor, you've got the 6, you've got the 1, which is the C, you've got the D, which is the 2nd or the 9th, you've got the E, which is the 3rd, and the G, that's the 5th, all in the key of C. In the B minor pentatonic, you've got the B, which is the 7, major 7, D, 2nd or 9, right? E, 3rd, F sharp, that is the money note, that's the sharp 11, that's the sharp 4, that's that raised sharp that gives that ethereal kind of quality to it. And then you've got the A, right? And it starts over. So there's a ton of shared notes, but there's a couple notes different that just gives you a nice little spice to cook with while you're playing and making up your own line. So that's a lot of information on the major 7. We talked about different ways to play C major 7 that are all, for the most part, movable. We talked about this whole Lydian concept, and also hopefully you'll practice that C major 7 going back and forth between the E minor, right? And then I really, really, really would love it if you could work on that B minor, A minor, E minor over C major 7. How do I work on that, Nate? Super easy. You're already on YouTube because you're watching this. Just as soon as this is over, type in C major backing tracks and then just watch all the different things that come up and start playing around with this. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you start doing this, you're going to have a moment where you're going to be like, doesn't sound right. You're going to have a moment where you go, I don't know about this. You got to open your ear up. Keep pushing through that. Play around with it. Now, on some of the, I haven't listened to every backing track in the key of C on the internet, but on some of those, it may not be right. It may be not quite exactly what they say it is. But if it's truly in the key of C, it's going to work. It's going to work. And if it doesn't work, maybe it's just that one note. And now you get to learn the concept of, well, I need to avoid that note when I'm on that chord in that moment, when that comes back around, right? These are just stuff, this kind of stuff I work on all the time. It's the kind of stuff that I use to try to expand my ear, but also just, I want to play without thinking. I don't want to be thinking the whole time I'm playing. I just want to be in the moment, feeling wherever this moment's going to take us and doing my best to serve it and serve the song and to make it about we and not about me, right? I tell you what, if you like this sort of thing, this is what we do. Every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. here on YouTube. We're living life the best we can with the guitar in the hand. And I tell you what, if you have any questions for me, please, by all means, put them in the comments section below this video. Someone else has your question, but they may not be able to word it as good as you can. So go ahead and ask it. I sure do appreciate y'all. You're all the most encouraging guitar community on the face of the internet, and it means a lot to me that you be here. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you next week for another Chords and Coffee.